we love Black men, but there
We do.
are
I was just
some
about to say shout out to Black men just
shout out,
because.
shout
Just
out.
because.
But there are some real messages on Black men's shoulders around having to be a certain way. And I think that there is a pressure for Black men to do it differently and to be nice and to be different and to not be a jerk. And I have to, there's because they're trying almost like there's like I have to make up for. And I think that Black men feel that and they want that. And so I think that for Black nines, because they really want to correct other things that have happened generationally or with other people, they again will just go with the flow.
I'm Kim.
And I'm Camille, and this is Enneagram for the Culture, where two dope Black therapists discuss how therapy, Blackness, and the Enneagram come together. That's us.
That's us. And welcome.
Yes. Today we are deep diving into our Enneagram 9s.
Mm-hmm.
The top of the circle. But first, how did the Enneagram show up for you, Kim? Recently,
I had a really, really cool opportunity to be on the radio. Like, not really, because do people really listen to the radio? Yes, there are still radio stations, but you don't have to actually like listen to it on the radio in your car because now they've gotten hip. This is actually like it was a Zoom call and it's on YouTube and it's a podcast. So, but yeah, it's the NPR station for like Charlotte. And it was a conversation about spirituality and mental health. One of my really good friends who's also a therapist, just shout out to having cool friends who were therapists, wasn't feeling good and needed me to fill in for her. And so she asked me if I was available and I was able to make myself available. And I'm so glad I did because it was a really good conversation. The conversation, again, it was about how our spirituality or our relationship with, religion, having faith, how all of that is connected to our mental health. And this was not just, woo-woo stuff. This was facts. It was all whole scientists and neuroscientists on there talking about neurotheology, the study of the brain and how it is impacted by religion. And so he was talking about studies, with scans that show what's happening in our brain when we're engaged in spiritual practices. And so I was able to be on there and offer my perspective as a woman of faith who integrates that in what she does with clients. And it's so much of, why I'm doing what I'm doing as a therapist and even, talking about the Enneagram. And then it was just a great conversation. So the way it showed up, I guess, is the opportunity to be like excited about me being on the radio. I guess that kind of sounds like a 3 thing. But I'm really just proud of how it all came together. I used to and still get really, really nervous. Even when we're recording, I'll get nerves. So it's been a goal of mine for a few years to intentionally like practice speaking publicly more because it's something that I do, want to be good at. And so it was cool to see my growth, even though I was nervous, kind of got grounded and felt really good about what we were talking about. I was being myself. Yes. I've learned to just get on there and just be authentic, to have fun. And it was great. It was really good. So I think I'll be able to link it. If anybody wants to check it out, we can put it in the show notes.
I got to listen to it and I loved it. It was so cool. I thought you sounded amazing and smart, which you are. And it was great. And it honestly is a really cool conversation. Just the other folks that are on this panel everybody added such wisdom, obviously including Kim, but everyone added such unique thoughts, and highly recommend for anybody. And I think that you guys did a really good job of really defining spirituality broadly, that it can be in those formal ways. But then it also can be being out in nature or whatever that means to you. And it doesn't just have to be church. But I think that it was such a cool conversation. I felt very inspired after listening to it and just like energized. Yeah, I loved it. And I told you that I thought it was so good. I feel like
but to hear you say it, this is so, again, this is showing up for me right now in this moment, right? For like, and this came up in another conversation, like, I think for probably for anybody, but definitely for me to like put work into stuff and share it with people, for example, the podcast, or when I, have conversations like these, and for, my people to show up and actually listen, or like, it means a lot to me. So thank you.
I loved it. Yeah. I'm looking back at my text message. It's like in all capital letters. There's like clapping emojis.
It was really,
and I'm just like so excited about it. And I just thought it was so good. So I recommend anybody that's listening right now to give it a listen. And she shouts out the podcast.
Yeah.
The Enneagram.
Yeah.
And it's a good listen. And it's not too long. I think it was about an hour.
Yep. It's an hour.
So it's very accessible, and you should be proud. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
You go, girl.
Ooh.
Awesome.
Okay. What about for you?
The way that Enneagram showed up for me was actually just this morning. I went on a date. And he shared like, what do you like to do? What are your passions? Those kind of questions. And, I answered a couple of things, but then I was saying that today I have to record my podcast. And so of course he asked, what's your podcast? And I told him, and he said that he's like, oh, I think that I'm a 9. And he's like, but I don't really know what that means. Someone just like, kind of like, I just took the test once and like, whatever. And I was like, well, do you want me to tell you about it? And he was like, okay. And so like, I like, of course, like launch into like all this. I think I talked to him about 9s for like 5 minutes, probably straight, of just like all about 9s. And then I was like, oh shit, I just talked so much about something. And then I was like, he's like, well, what number are you? And I was like, a 7. And I was like, do you want me to tell you about that one? And he paused and I was like, this is a 9. He's trying to figure out, like, he probably doesn't want to hear about it, but it's a first date and he doesn't know what to do. And I like knew it was, I saw his little brain tinkering and he was like, sure. And so I did go in, but I made it shorter because I was like, I'm not sure he really wants to hear about this.
Oh my gosh.
I shared what a 7 was. But it was just funny to be like my excitement and my like energy about something, which is just on brand. And then for him to be seen across from someone that's like, sure, maybe. He probably checked out of that conversation. Sometimes we talk about 9s kind of like zoning out. He wasn't listening. He went somewhere else in that conversation. But yeah, funny. So that's how it showed up for me this morning, was just, yes, me being super excited about something and probably just sharing way too much information about it. And then him as a 9 being like, okay.
I'm curious. I know we have to get to our 9s because that's,
we're talking about it.
Yep, we are. It's just funny. But so, cause on market, I'm curious for you, like when you're dating and it comes to like talking, did you say,
Yeah. Just a sentence when you're dating.
It was so quick. It was so, I thought I heard it, but it's like, I didn't see your lips move. Yeah. How soon do you ask about someone's type, or how do you?
Yeah. I actually, so I actually don't like to bring it up because if I bring it up, then they're going to know that I have a podcast, and I don't like them knowing that I have a podcast because it, You learn a lot about like you're going to get so much more information listening to me talk on this podcast. I don't know what stories you heard me talk about. I don't know. Like there's so much. And so I don't want them to have all of that background information. Yeah. It kind of feels like then so I don't like to bring up that I have a podcast. So I don't bring it up. I try not to, but sometimes it does just because of my schedule. Like I might be like, I have to go because I have to do this podcast recording. And then of course, what's your podcast on? Or sometimes in the dating world, people do like put that stuff on their profiles or ask like, have you heard about that? That's really funny. When people are like, have you heard about the Enneagram? And I'm like, have I heard about the
You've
Enneagram?
Had people ask you that.
Yeah. Like they might be like, I'm really into personality tests, or some people put it on their dating profiles. Like I'm this. Or their Myers-Briggs, like they'll put their Myers-Briggs and then their Enneagram.
Myers-Briggs. I've seen a few of those.
And so then they'll ask, and then I have to be like, yeah, actually I do know about Enneagram. But you know, there's some gender stuff that plays into that because then, you know, if I'm the expert and how much do you correct somebody and how much do you like?
They're like, oh yeah, I'm a 5-wing 1. And you're like,
yeah, okay. It's literally biting my tongue to be like, okay, how do I tell them that's wrong? And it's, you know, I'm a very strong girl. I don't shy away from using my voice, and I'm not a little dainty girl. And so, but I try and like tread lightly, at first, not to switch people up. It's honestly because I know it's going to come out eventually anyway. So I don't need to get on my high horse about the Enneagram. Like there's going to be other things I'm going to need to get on my high horse about. So like,
you'll save it.
So I got to save which battles. Like, I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah. The 5. Now I might say it nicely. I'll be like, oh, that doesn't really quite work like that. But actually, I don't know what I would say in that situation, Kim, if somebody said that. What would you say? If someone's like, I'm 5 weeks. Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, he was a 9 too. But yeah, he said he was a 9-wing 4, I think. Something like that. And I was like, Actually, I think he asked my type and I told him my type. And I was like, by the way, you know, your wings are the types on either side of you.
Yeah. How'd that go?
It went good. And then I sent him, he wanted to take a test. And so I sent him the link to the Melody Enneagram. And that did. It turned into a whole conversation about me having a podcast. And he was really interested in it. But it's been rare where that's the case. Again, especially like Black guys.
I know. I was surprised that this guy had heard about it. Like he was like, oh yeah, I know what that is. Because usually the same, like, yeah, you say, have you heard of the Enneagram? And they're like, the what? And so he knew. He was like, yeah, I've heard of that. His colleagues, his coworkers had talked to him about it. And so he's like, yeah, I've heard of it. He's like, but I don't know much about it. But then it was cool. Like the reason why we're doing this podcast, like it was cool for me to be like, well, and we're doing it for the culture. Like we're doing it where we weave in race into it. And so again, in my like 5-minute spiel about 9s, I like talked to him about how it showed how Blackness interweaves with 9ness. And he seemed interested, but he could have also been zoned out by that point. Who knows?
All right, let's get into this. I love 9s.
Okay. So 9s. So brief overview, if you want to learn more about 9s, we do talk about them in season 1, episode 4. That's the 9 episode, where we do all about kind of like the basics and the intro to a type 9. But just for a brief overview, just for today's sake, when we think about our 9s, they're often referred to as the peacemaker. And their motivation is to maintain their inner stability and peace and harmony outside of themselves too. So inside and outside. And their fear is separation or loss or lack of like not belonging, like being separated. Um, and they are also in the gut or body triad. Um, and they, just like 8, 9s, and 1s, have a relationship with anger. So that's the little brief overview of who 9s are.
Yeah. Okay, so the holy idea for nines is love. And what this means is this acceptance and knowing that everything is balanced and in perfect peace and harmony, um, and that there's no losing that. It's not severed by what we do or fail to do. So for me, what really I just think of really I think of unconditional love. I just think, no matter
Mm.
what, no matter, what you do, no matter what you don't do, flaw just your full self, just being able to bring all of you um to the table, to the space, and it belongs just inherently.
Mhm.
Is what I think about. I think it's just so beautiful.
It's
So
so
beautiful.
beautiful. So, so beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, yes. And when 9s lose sight of that holy idea, of that beautiful picture of unconditional love, what can happen is their fixation can show up, and that's going to come in the form of indolence. And that word in general means it's avoidance of activity or exertion or laziness. And in this situation for them, it's that they just stop trying to make a difference. There's a giving up that happens because to try and get to the holy idea in a not great way, it's like, well, if I just don't do anything, then maybe that's when I will be accepted
Mhm.
in that beautiful way.
Mhm.
But that doesn't really work. So that's what the fixation can look like.
When we're tapped into the holy idea, we exude the virtue. And so the virtue for nines is right action. So if you just kind of think about what Camille just explained, and kind of the, other end of this looking like being very aware, um, awake. We talk about nines and falling asleep. So, that language is intentional, engaged, awake and engaged to natural instincts, to know and move forward with what they want and what they need. So this is an awareness. This is just being very attuned, and being able to go into action from that place.
Mhm.
Um, so the body is really, really important here for not to be able to connect with it.
Yes. And when they lose sight of the virtue, when they're not connected to that right action, what can show up is the passion. And the passion for a 9 is what we call sloth. And what we mean by sloth in this context is, again, that language that you always hear, and Kim already just referenced it, but falling asleep to themselves. So a tendency to fall asleep to my own needs, my own wants, to myself. There's an inattention of self, there's self neglect, and then even a laziness towards self. So that's what they mean by sloth when we think about 9s.
Mhm. I have lots of favorites, which also I think translates to me like struggling with having favorites, but this
Mm-hmm.
is one of my favorites parts of this like conversation. It's how
Mm.
um all of this integrates with our blackness. So I've said a few times I love nines. I have the privilege of working with a lot of nines. Um and yeah, I don't know, ironically, so many of them are in corporate America. That's the case for a lot of my like across the board. A lot of us, especially now, are in these positions where we're working in spaces that are very white, systemically white, and some of the policies, practices, the culture is just rooted in stuff that doesn't feel good for us, and it never has.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
for certain reasons, this is where we are, and this is where we feel like we have to be. And so, especially for what I see in some of my clients who are nines, we end up having a lot of conversations about shrinking themselves versus feeling like they have permission to take up space. But again, some of the same language, falling asleep to themselves, just how incredibly important it is for each person to know how this can show up for you, because it can be different. It's not necessarily the same for all nines, the way you can fall asleep to yourself. So being able to be like present with yourself enough and aware enough, and kind of, having practices in place to help you to get there, to realize what that can look like when you're starting to fall asleep on, because it could be really very sneaky. It's not super obvious. And then again, when you pair that with being in spaces where it doesn't always feel like it's safe for you to be your full self, you think for a 9, that's just a lot that's kind of that you're working against, to find a sense of attunement and connection with yourself. So doing that work to figure out what that looks like for you. It's been a beautiful experience at times to be able to explore with clients when they do allow themselves to connect with like what maybe work or life or career would look like if they were more connected to like a sense of purpose. Some of the stuff, like some of the ideas, some of the vision, that 9s have, as far as going back to like, holy love and right action, being able to see all of the things that could be better where there's a need, and the ideas they have. I really do get chills like when I hear it each time. It's really, really amazing. So I think, for Black 9s to just be aware that, to know that that's in you, that's there. But they just take work.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't talk about this earlier, but as you're talking about this, I'm reminded about when we say that language of like the trick of the number. And so it's this place that the goal for a 9 is to live in this harmonious, loving, perfect peace. We're all unified and unity. That's what they want. And what happens when they go about that the wrong way, that indolence or that sloth shows up. And so they numb down or push down their needs and their voice. So in the example for this corporate America, like they might be in a job where they really actually don't really like it. Or there's practices that are happening at work that they really don't like, but they push that down. And then that creates conflict within themselves, or that creates conflict with their coworkers because they're not actually speaking up. And then it goes against the thing that they're working for, which is to have this beautiful place of unity. And
it's tricky.
And then it gets tricky.
It's tricky. Whoa. So tricky.
You'll get caught in your own cycle.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And all of us have this trick, but that's the trick for the 9, is that in an attempt for this perfect love, this conflict ends up happening within themselves. And instead they can go to that place of right action. That's so beautiful. Like that I actually can use my voice. I actually can be awake and move forward with what I need to create the perfect love that I want. Hey, so a part of our hope is to really connect with you guys. So we want to know what you're getting from this and what you want to learn more about on this podcast.
You can connect with Camille on Instagram at camille.logan.lcmhc.
And you can find Kim on Instagram at KReeseLCSW.
And you can follow us both on Instagram at Enneagram for the Culture. We've dropped the links in the show notes, so check those out too. And while you're there, go ahead and bless us with a rating and a review. Subscribe so you can be notified when our new episodes drop weekly, and share this with someone you know. We'll see you around.
For Black 9s in particular as well, not only the corporate side of things that you were talking about, but also in relationships. I've had the privilege actually to work with a lot of Black 9 men. And I've had Black 9 men in my life personally. we love Black men, but there
We do.
are
I was just
some
about to say shout out to Black men just
shout out,
because.
shout
Just
out.
because.
But there are some real messages on Black men's shoulders around having to be a certain way. And I think that there is a pressure for Black men to do it differently and to be nice and to be different and to not be a jerk. And I have to, because they're trying almost like I have to make up for. And I think that Black men feel that and they want that. And so I think that for Black nines, because they really want to correct other things that have happened generationally or with other people, they again will just go with the flow and kind of quiet their voice because they don't want to be mean. They don't want to do the wrong, not the wrong thing. They don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to rock the boat. I want to be nice. I want to go with the flow. And so they push it down, push it down, push it down. And then what happens is an internal conflict happens in the relationship for themselves because they actually really didn't want to do that. Here's a small example. I really didn't want sushi. I didn't want that. Or I really didn't want to have that conversation, or I really didn't want to spend my money in that way. I really don't want to be in this relationship. But because I don't want to use my voice to say what I want, because I'm scared that I'm going to rock the boat or be mean or be cast aside or shut out, then I'll push it down. And then what happens is when we push something down, it's going to come out somewhere else. And so what happens sometimes for nines is that passive aggressiveness comes up. And so passive aggressiveness for nines is a real thing, that instead of using my voice to say, I don't want sushi, I'm going to sit at the sushi table and be cold or be snarky or have a scowl on my face instead of just saying, I actually didn't want sushi. And so the bad behavior of being snarky comes out. And that's a small example. So then the big examples, right? Then I might start talking to other women, or I might be late, or I might lie. I might start to just fall asleep to my own morals and my own values because I don't want to rock the boat of, I actually don't like this. I think there's also with Black men, there's this, I don't know if it's a fear, but like, I don't want to be too domineering. I don't want to be this angry picture of Black men. So again, I'm going to push it down. I'm going to push down my anger. And because I'm afraid of the possible conflict. There's sometimes when we look at nines, what they think is really, really angry. And then I'll say like, oh, tell me what you'd want to say. And they say it. I'm like, oh, that's not mean at all. Right. Like but to them, it feels like, oh, that would be the meanest thing I could say. And it's like, yeah, that's all right. No one's gonna like fall apart for you saying that. But in their mind, the idea of any small conflict feels like a really big deal. And so in relationships for Black men in particular, because of the social narratives, because of the social correcting that sometimes Black men feel like they have to do, that can show up for nines as pushing down when I really just want to say, no, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. So that's the idealization, which would be like a whole new thing, but that is, a whole new thing to introduce in the podcast at this point. So that's not what I'm trying to do. I got Chi-Chi's book pulled up. So as I'm listening to you, and it makes sense, right? Kind of what you're describing that's driving this is a very idealistic view of oneself, right? I'm a very peaceful person. I'm agreeable, right? I want to be this representation of us, right? That's very, very idealistic. So you'll like the 1,000th plug, and there will be a million more to come. Check out Chi-Chi's book to read more about idealizations and how they can show up for each type.
Yes. I mean, when you get to know a 9 close up, again, on the surface, 9, chill, easygoing, peaceful, go with the flow. But when you get to know them, you see that under the surface there is, and so that's that idealization. And under the surface, there are real angers and desires and needs and wants, but they're not going to put that on top all the time.
Yeah. So yeah, anger again, nines in the gut triad, all three of these types, they share same emotional struggle with anger. It just looks different. So nines, again, so important to do the work, to practice being in touch with yourself, being aware, because you too get angry. It's there. It may feel like you're out of touch with it. Or for folks who are in relationship with nines at times, it may feel like it's not there, but it's there. And like Camila's already said, when you don't, when you do keep telling yourself that you can't, again, that's that resistance, right? You're really holding on to something here. You really, really got a tight grip on that bar, right? That I just have to be this peaceful person who never gets upset. That's gonna seep out. Or at times it'll like blow up. So it's important to be aware of that. And again, some of the same language, to be able to be aware of that, like with a curiosity, not a criticism, to be able to be compassionate, to be able to give grace and love and kindness to yourself as you're trying to navigate it, versus, the judgment and being hard on yourself. Because we all get angry. And as season 1, we should, right? We have this justification. But it's what we do with it. And a part of that is learning to not keep suppressing it, not keep falling asleep to it, and being aware of how you can tend to do that.
Yes, absolutely. And then even just thinking about that, what are your desires and wants and needs, so that you can speak to them, create right action to get them. And then that's how you build authentic relationships. Nines want to be in relationship with people. Again, they want harmony. They want to sing Kumbaya holding hands. But I can't sing Kumbaya holding hands with you if you're not being your authentic self. Like,
true that.
Because then now I'm mad at you for not telling me that you actually wanted Mexican. Now I'm mad. Now I don't want to sing Kumbaya with you, right? And so now the thing that you were trying to avoid, being separated, you're now going to be separated because I'm mad that you didn't just tell me you wanted Mexican. Just speak up, right action, use your voice.
All right. So is this practical stuff? So that we'll get to the community part last. So nines, everybody, but nines, if you haven't caught on at this point, it's important for you to get in touch with your body. Wake up. It's going to help you. It's going to help. It may feel frustrating to try to figure out WTF, what is it that we're saying when we're talking about this, but try to, again, embrace a curious tone with it, because it's so worth it. So you got to get in touch and pay attention to your body. And there are a number of ways we can try to practice doing that.
Yeah. So because nines, one of your superpowers, again, but it's secret. One of your superpowers is your really strong connection to your body. Some numbers aren't as connected to their body as you guys are. And so
very much
use that. But again, because nines have a tendency to fall asleep to their own needs and desires, they can ignore the body sensations that they feel. So what I kind of like to do with clients is this really cool intervention. I do it with boundaries. And so what I have clients do is we take yarn and I have the client make a boundary with the yarn. So they make a circle around them, and then I make a circle around me. And then I will actually invade their circle. So I'll walk towards them and cross their boundary. And what I'll have my 9 clients do is to notice what happens in your body when I cross your boundary. And usually pretty quickly, 9s can say, my stomach clenched up, or my fist clenched, or my heart rate started beating. Something happened in your body when I started to cross your boundary. And so that's that awakeness to oh, there's that thing. And then I might say, what did that feeling that you felt in your body, what was it saying? It was saying, stop. It was saying, I don't like that she's crossing my boundary. Okay, can we say that with our mouth? And so then we'll have a 9, I'll do it again, and I'll have the 9 practice. When they feel the feeling, Camille, I need you to stop. I need you to back up. And so then I hear them, and then I say, now what happened to your body? Oh, my stomach released, or it wasn't as scary as I thought because you listened to me. The thing with nines, though, unfortunately, we all do something for a reason. Sometimes nines got into this situation because people didn't listen to their boundaries. And so that's why they said, well, then I should never say them. And so I start to practice that. Look, I listened and it felt good when I listened and when I stopped. And what did that feel like? And then they say that felt really good that you listened. Then I'll do, okay, now you told me to stop. We're going to do it again. You tell me to stop. And then I'll turn my body. I'll turn away. Like I will about face. And I'll say, what happened to your body when I about faced? And usually for nines, they feel another feeling of, oh no, she's mad at me. She's rejecting me. She's separating from me. And that again is the fear for a nine. A nine does not want to be separated from people. And so when that happens, I will say, okay, pay attention to that. And then I'll actually in that moment will actually just tolerate that distress, because sometimes someone might turn away. And because that's the thing that the nines are fearing, we almost want nines to kind of learn that, like, I can soothe myself in that distress of like, she's mad at me. Okay. How do I calm that down? How do I take my deep breaths? How do I relax my body? How do I recognize that, like, I didn't do anything wrong? She just chose to turn her body around, all that kind of stuff. Again, using their body to kind of dictate what care and concern they need to give to themselves. Because what has happened is when I have nines do this and I turn my body, they'll say that they want to come and chase after me. They want to come and turn me back around. They want to come and say, I'm sorry. They want to say, no, it's okay. Come in my bubble. Come in. And for them to learn that, like, hey, don't abandon what you need to come and create connection. Take care of what you need. And then you can calm yourself down that way. So all of that to say, just for nines, notice those sharp, like, body sensations, those sharp clenches, those sharp moments of like, something just happened there. And then what do I need to do with that thing that I'm feeling?
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's good. You reminded me of something that I find comes up a lot, especially with, it's with all of us. It really is
All of us.
every single one of us. But the types in the gut triad and control, and bringing and talking about this with nines a lot. But just generally, when we can be aware of when, and you just illustrated it really well with, the intervention you just described, that urge to go into action, to run over and tell you to, hey, it's okay, turn around. When you can realize that it is being triggered by something external, that's really not yours to control. It may feel like the call to action is to run over and do something about it, but what the real call to action is for you to learn to get curious with yourself about what you need, because again, it can be tricky. You can get preoccupied with the stuff that's really not yours to control. But the need is here. So to be able to have that awareness, shift your attention from that to here. What is it I need? And then carve out a step. So that can be helpful. It can be hard.
Very hard. But the beautiful thing about doing that, practicing it in a safe space. That's why shout out to therapy. So that you can practice it with a safe person, because afterwards I say, hey, I'm sorry that I turned around like that. I repair it. Right. And so, and they trust me. We've done a lot of work ahead of time, that they know that I'm just trying to help them. Right. So doing it with someone that you trust and feel safe with in therapy, so that you can start to learn those curiosities and those feelings, is important. And so I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, that get a therapist that incorporates body work. If you're a 9, really, you want to get a therapist that incorporates body work, that is doing these sort of interventions with you, that you're getting to practice those feelings. Again, 9s, I wish I had this big of a superpower. 9s, you guys will be talking and you'll motion to something in your body. You'll say, oh, and I was so mad, and you'll motion to your chest, or you'll motion to your stomach. And if you have a therapist that incorporates the body, your therapist is going to say, what is happening? What's happening right there in your chest? And they'll go, I feel a tightness. What does that tightness say? That tightness says I'm really pissed off that they're not listening to me. Great. Let's go with that. But if you're just in your head talking and a therapist doesn't grab onto like those somatic signals that you're doing, you're not going to be able to use that superpower of like, no, you actually feel something in your gut. You actually feel something in your shoulders or in your chest. So definitely get a therapist that is more somatic based or has some somatic work training to be able to look and notice the strengths that you already possess.
Yeah. That's a really good suggestion just for Black people in general. It's just a really, really, really slight deviation, Camille, because I know a lot of us are coming to grips with this and accepting this or understanding this, especially since the pandemic. But we know now, based on research, that if we really want to see healing, progress, growth when it comes to trauma, be that a one-time experience, like you've experienced something really traumatic, or again, seeing images of Black people being killed on television over and over again, whatever that spectrum is for you, we know that it's important for us to incorporate our body as a part of that work. So for Nines and all Black people, if you are being open to exploring therapy, I encourage you to look for somebody who incorporates somatic work as well.
Yeah. And what's actually cool, and that makes me so mad, this is a soapbox, is that we as Black people can sometimes feel like that's really woo-woo and that's not for us, when in actuality, we are the ones that brought those practices here. We are the ones that incorporate our bodies with dance and all of these beautiful things. And because of the ways that Black people were treated and the ways that our bodies were treated, there was a separation with our bodies. And because of the trauma. And so it is our job to reclaim that, because it is ours and it is our bodies that tell the truth. And because bad things have happened to Black bodies, we've distanced ourselves from them. And so we have to come back home to ourselves. And so having therapists, yoga, Reiki, dance, any of that stuff to get us back in tune with what's ours. I have chills and I can talk about it forever, but we have to do that.
Absolutely.
I'm all pissed off now, Kim.
High five. Give me a high five.
High five.
There we go. Makes it better. All right. So 9. So going back to falling asleep on yourself or to yourself, I noticed and talk about this with clients that can look like, I don't know. And Camille and I were talking about this, before we got on, like that's a thing that we have to learn how to help clients navigate in therapy. Sometimes clients show up and they think we're the ones with the answers, and that's why they're there, is because we're going to tell them what the answers are, and that's not the case. So, but especially for 9s, and again, having this understanding of how the falling asleep to yourself, how that can show up. Sometimes, I don't know. So being aware of like when you find yourself saying that, and again, many times it's not even, it's habitual. So if you can just practice being aware of it, not judging yourself, not saying, oh, Kim and Camille mentioned this on the podcast and I'm doing it. Not that, just aware of it, and then shifting your focus to your body. Just, I said it. And then just pay attention to your body.
Yeah.
Where do you feel something? What's it feel like? Just that simple.
Yeah. And we said this in season 1 for 9s, whether it's a therapist, friend, romantic partner, whatever, we as co-laborers of 9s, we have to give them space. So when they say, I don't know, okay, let's pause. Let's get curious. What's happening? What do you know? And that might take a little second, because they're having to connect. 9s are having to reconnect to themselves because maybe they've fallen asleep in that moment. And so giving space to them for them to be able to do that. And so having a therapist that when you do say, I don't know, that therapist can say, okay, we've said that a lot this session. Let's pause. What do we know? What's happening in your body? what do you need to give voice to?
Mhm.
Because it can be a sneaky that we can
Mhm.
just jump into these places of falling asleep.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. So yeah, good questions to kind of um, ask yourself, or again in that space with a therapist, to explore when those I don't knows or whatever the kind of cue words are, or gestures or thoughts that kind of, again, you can learn to indicate, okay, I might be I might be falling asleep to myself. Um,
Mhm,
um, is there, like, what do you know? Is there a part of you that
mhm,
does? Again, just kind of going back to trusting, which is huge for nines, huge for all the types in the gut triad, to be able to remember that
mhm,
you can trust yourself. Again, like
mhm,
Camila said, those instincts, you're that it's as a types that are not in that
mhm,
triad, right? We know it can be hard, really,
mhm,
really hard to be in touch with that. And so
mhm,
it's a gift, and you can trust it. You can trust it.
mhm,
So yeah, paying attention, being aware of the I don't knows, or just, generally aware of how you can fall asleep to yourself. And to build on that just a little bit, maybe what you may do to like help you fall asleep, like numbing agents. This can be a thing. It can look like social media, just eating, drinking, video games, anything that you can kind of find yourself just falling into just doing when you're not trying to feel, or not
mhm,
trying to engage, not trying to be present.
mhm,
It can be helpful. It's necessary for us to
mhm.
be able to be aware of like what those things are.
Yeah.
So that again, you can just be able to pay attention.
Yeah, yeah. On that list, also naps, taking lots of
Yeah.
naps, oversleeping, smoking, anything like that that is sort of your vice to
Hmm.
be able to kind of check out because things are feeling a little bit too intense. Um, we all have to be aware of that.
Yep.
But a lot of times nines kind of have their go-tos of like, yep,
Yeah.
this is how I numb what I'm feeling right now.
Mhm.
Mhm. You kind of spoke to this a little bit, but giving voice to your anger. So that's some parts work. If you have a therapist and they use internal family systems, so being able to what is that? Finding that part of yourself that is angry, and then giving that part space to use its voice. What does it say? Where do you feel it in your body? Where does it live? What's the temperature like? What's the tightness or looseness of it? How loud is it? And then giving that space and that part a voice. What would it say if that part of you could speak? What would it say? I hate this job and I need to leave, and it's the worst thing ever. I hate sushi and I don't want to go sushi. Um, and she always picks sushi. I'm sick of going where she wants to go. And one day I just want Mexican. All right. Well, that's what your anger would say. Let's practice saying it. And noticing what happens when we step into that. So giving your anger voice, and noticing where it sits in your body is important for nines.
All right. Yep. And then we talked about space a bit with nine. So, on one end, taking up space, instead of shrinking yourself, but also, like Camila's already said, get honoring when you may
Mm,
need to just take some time to be with yourself longer, to see if you may know, to see what part of you knows, to see what part of you is experiencing anger, to get curious about what the message may be, taking that space. And then again, going back to folks who are in relationships with nines, honoring that and encouraging that,
mhm,
um, because space is important. So,
mhm, mhm,
lastly, again, so that we can be careful to not kind of like Chi Chi uses the term weaponize
mm,
our armor or our type structure, um, by forcing the people in our lives, the people that we encounter, to subscribe to the same singular narrative that we can tend to grapple with. And so, for nines, being careful to not be dismissive or to weaponize your armor against people who apparently or perceptively have no issue with taking up space or using their voice or doing too much, because nines can struggle with that narrative and can kind of tend to tell themselves that it's something that they can't do, that they must be, agreeable and kind of small and passive at times. When they see people who aren't like that, they can be dismissive of them or not have capacity for them, not be open to them. So it's something to be aware of.
Yeah. 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 So
boom, boom, and a boom, boom.
Okay.
That's what I said. I said what I said. I said a boom, boom with a boom, boom.
Well, on that note, that's it for the nines.
That's it for the nines.
We are excited. Like we've said, I love seeing a nine exert and assert themselves and step into that right action to create a place that has that holy truth of love. Ooh, we need that. We need that. We need that. So use your voice, tap into your body, move forward. Don't fall asleep to yourself.
Take up space.
Take up space. Because we need that.
Me too.
And that's it for us today.
Yeah. So we'll see y'all. Oh, we got ones next?
Yes. We will see everyone for type 1.
All right. Take care, y'all.
Bye.